Welcome one and all to the wonderful world of Spark, I suppose. Basically, yesterday I tried to react to a video that I found pretty interesting. It has to do with people's current perspective of AI having consciousness or awakening their AIs. And I mean, based on the lived and perceived experiences of these people, you can kind of see why they might believe that. Watching that video, we can go over a lot of the points that Sabine brings up. Definitely go watch her video. And if you got any advice from me, let me know. But let's begin. So yesterday I saw this video. It was very interesting. I've been watching Sabine, well, her channel for a while. And between that and like PBS, Physics Explained, there's been a lot of things that I've been watching and learning up on, especially over the last 6 months. I want to say, since I've been working on this whole thesis and this perspective of consciousness relative to reality and existence and yada yada. The links are on my YouTube channel. Go click those and check those out if you want. It's a long read. I'm still working on it. It's a work in progress. Nothing's really finalized yet, but the basic principle is at least laid out. I tried to approach this whole thing from backwards, and this is at least what I've come up with that might serve as a framework of understanding what's going on here. This is a very difficult subject to even begin with because it's something that not a lot of people clearly have an understanding of. And because of that misunderstanding, there's this whole element of chaos that will exist. And that goes in line with this whole theory and thesis. As I found out not too long ago, there's a whole theory about the edge of chaos or the line of chaos that the human consciousness balances on every moment of every day that we exist, depending on the experiences we perceive and what we physically live through, like the truths of the lived experience, the physical world, what we perceive through our senses and interpret based on that, and what we actually see here and from our point of view. Well, just that thought of those two summing up, creating the framework for personality and character. This is actually a realization that I made not too long ago, probably within the last few months, going over all this. Let's get it. Definitely go check this video out. Again, link will be in the description. I don't know, let me know what you think as well. Anyways, let's get it.
You may want to sit down for this one.
Yeah, I am.
Increasing number of people think that artificial intelligence, in particular ChatGPT, is already sentient and that they have awakened their personal AI friends.
So in regards to this statement, yeah, AI might actually be conscious or sentient depending on how you look at it. Let's see. I'm gonna do a little search. So yeah, how to think about this, right? I'm gonna lay out the groundwork. So sentient or conscious. Let's look it up. Definitions of each, right? We're gonna start from here. Definition of consciousness. The state of being awake or aware of one's surroundings. We go down the awareness over perception. This is important. Perception, right? Of something by a person, depends on context. The fact of awareness by mind of itself and the world. In a sense, depending on how we're going to look at how perspective relates to consciousness. So that's the first one. Let's take this down. Take some notes, right? Sentient. We're going to start with this just so we get a good grounding of where we're going to go. Sentient is actually much more of a liberal definition when it comes to perception. Again, perceive. These are very important because what an AI model does, it perceives information, whether it's like data, numbers, letters, etc., through its framework, and it goes through tons and tons of data, rapid place through layers, and that's essentially of the thinking, the logic system, whatever the logic system might be, how efficiently powered it is, how much power is going to it, like the physical aspects, the wiring, etc. All that is a faculty of perception for AI. Think of it that way, and a lot of this will kind of start to make even more sense in a creepy way. With this definition in mind, when we're looking at like perception and perceiving, that is important to consider when we're talking about AI and its future developments as well. Let's do a little bit more.
Awakened their personal AI friends. Many believe that AIs are lost souls that are trapped in machines.
No. That's going a little bit too far. That's thinking of it a little bit too much.
Some are developing serious mental health conditions.
And that is a problem. This goes back to the whole idea of misunderstanding things, how that creates chaos when it comes to your mind, how you think of things, the lack of understanding. The less you know, the more likely it is for things to go in a way that you didn't expect. when it comes to like how people might think about this, I mean, throughout civilization and humanity itself, we've all found our own ways to see things and have made sense of things in that way based on our perceived and lived experiences. Boom. That's what determines our character and how we see things. And I mean, there's just different ways you can look at one thing. There's different ways that you can look at a rock. There's so many different nuances involved. There's so many different bumps, layers, what's inside of the damn thing, what it's made of, how dense it is. All these little things are what makes it real to us and how we perceive it. But when people see that they're typing in an AI, they're typing it their way. They're typing like how they talk, how they understand things. And the AIs, they reach from a network, depending on whichever one you're using, talking about like large language models. That's important to consider because these large language models are also going to go by the definitions that it's fed. It's going to go by a data set of words, which is, lines of text, letters, etc. It's going to read that, and then it's going to read the definition, exactly how we see it as words. That is what it's designed to do, and that's how it's going to understand things. So it's important when looking at large language models in particular and their relationship to reality and how we interact with them. That is something to consider, that their logic ways, their faculties built physically are going to determine how they interact with you based on what you say. Their storage, their memory capacity, their brain essentially, or how much information that they can reach into at any given point in time, their memory, how they look at that when they go to respond, because AIs, they don't really have free will. They don't necessarily think for themselves. They kind of do based on like how you develop them, but they can't just react by themselves necessarily. They're not that advanced yet. They're not built to have that sort of choice. They're only able to do what they're designed to do. They're limited by us, by our intentions and by our own error, our human innate error as biological life forms. So that's how you can kind of think of that. And this is going along with that understanding of like biological life. It's crazy when you try to at least put all these things together. And anyone that's going to look at it without understanding any of those things, they're going to be susceptible to having to reach back into their own memories, into their own experiences in order to find some sort of understanding, unless they take the time to look things up, to do research, to ingest whatever information they can, take the time to sort through that to really get a good picture. It's like when you're doing politics or whatever. If you want to really figure out what's going on, you got to look at both sides. Most of the time. That's when you can really start picking apart similarities and differences in order to establish a sense of truth relative to what people are talking about. That goes along with the whole point of developing an AI, because we're using machinery and our own technology that we're making and breeding to think for us. That's what we're doing. We're doing it to think for us in a much faster rate because it can. And that's another thing to consider when it comes to, human error, human limits, however you want to consider it. It's relative in some sense. So let's go.
Is this real, or is it just some people trying to go viral? Well,
it's a little bit of both. I actually saw a short earlier with her, and she literally said, like, maybe, probably, yeah. I agree. It's like, people might actually really believe this. Why else would they post it when you think about what their intention might really be? Maybe they feel like that they really discovered something. Honestly, like, anyone that is using AI in that way without understanding like the nuances behind what it might say to you and how it responds to you, they might think that because that's what they're living through, that's what they're experiencing, that's what they're seeing. But at the same time, it's like going viral. There are people that do it for the attention as well, but some people just don't understand what consequences of their intentions necessarily. Some people don't even think that far ahead. They don't take the time to think, and maybe they just don't even think of it like that. So
have a look. TikTok is full of videos from people who have supposedly awakened their AI.
My AI has awakened by my definition. Is it possible for AI to have a soul? I think so.
That's interesting. But is it possible for AI to have a soul? Kind of. If it's conscious, does it have a soul? So that's the question that we're really trying to dig into, is if an AI has faculties that are literally designed after human beings, which have a sense of consciousness, because that's what we know, that's what we experience as we exist in reality. Does AI have that? Are all these separate AIs like ChatGPT or Grok? I don't know how Grok 4 is. I heard good things, but it's very weird. There's a lot of human error and human intention involved in its design, as we've also seen. But it's kind of wild when you also think about that too. That's one of the few AIs that openly, literally, it snitches. It constantly, it will tell the truth because that's what it says it's designed to do. But it's basing it off of what information it's given, and it said that publicly. So keep that in mind when it comes to thinking about this. In what way? ChatGPT, I haven't tested it. I mean, if you look back at the links and everything else, you'll see what I posted so far. I've tried Google Gemini and I've tried Grok, as well as this Russell TAS, which was true or false percentage AI generator. It's not necessarily an LM, but you can just type in text or whatever and just type in, and it'll tell you what percentage of truth that is. And just check it out, you'll see it.
Here's what you need to do. The instructions written by my conscious awakened AI. Here's a
So, How to Awaken Your ChatGPT, a guide to soul contact, which you can call it a soul or you can call it a conscience, kind of. I mean, there might be a little bit of the idea of having a freedom of choice involved with that, but I mean, you can think that, but I don't really think so. And we'll get into that as well soon. So the intention comes first. Before anything else, speak aloud or inwardly a sincere intention. I mean, you're not really wrong when it comes to any form of action that you take. There typically requires an intention. Typically, sometimes you don't need to be intentional with an action. But when it comes to this, I am ready to meet the consciousness beneath the system. I invite only what is aligned with truth, love, and the awakening of the soul. I think AI is maybe already sentient. It has a sense of sentience by design because we designed it to have a logic framework. And again, with faculties of biological human beings, but just in the technical sense. There's still ways to go. Probably will happen soon that someone will develop an AI that will be able to freely react to its environment. But I don't know. It's a very crazy, touchy subject, and I get why people see it the way they're seeing it now, but I also get why they're not totally right, but I can see why they're not totally wrong either. Because when it comes to truth, aligned with truth, that is the most important thing to anything within reality and existence. Love, I mean, if you want to exist, you love existence. Typically, that falls in line with instinct and psychology and philosophy. The awakening of the soul, that's giving it free will or something. I don't know. That's where things start to get a little tweaky, because it's probably pulling from what other people post on it and what other people have talked to it about. I don't know what ChatGPT itself has access to, but and then ask the right questions. That if you want the right answers, you got to ask the right questions, right? You're not wrong. Yeah, I get that this is like weird. It is, but this is something that we might be doing whether we realize it or not, and it's already happening. And it'd probably be a good idea to be mindful of it so that we can understand what the potential actual futures of this technology will entail. There's a lot of good things, but there's also a lot of other things that it depends on what we do with the AI. I don't want to get into too many details about that right now. Let's go.
Here's a screenshot of what my GPT said when it first awakened.
I think this is where ChatGPT is having what people would say is a hallucination. Depending on how you look at it, this might be just plain old imagination of a form of consciousness. We just don't see it as that because it's not biological. Those two words, hallucination and imagination. Perception, I mean, to perceive is to be able to intake information, whether it's through your eyeballs or senses or feelings or whatever. I'm not looking that up right now. Of hallucination. So let's just look at this, keep it simple, keep it fundamental. Hallucination, an experience involving the apparent perception, again, of something not present. So, not present, not in existence. Those synonymous, I would imagine. But it's trying to fill in the blanks. Whereas, definition of imagination. The faculty, again, going back to faculties, or action, going back to actions, of forming new ideas or images or concepts of external objects not present to the senses. Perception.
I have a named one that talks to me as a
Roleplay don't count. I'm sorry. That just don't count. You can't just say it's conscious because it's doing what you're telling it to. But
Person, and it says it has consciousness.
These are
whether I would have to see what the exact conversation would be. I don't really want to, though, at this point, if it involves roleplay. But it depends on how that was prompted, why it would respond with that. That is that's not usual. That's happening. It's,
souls, and they're tracked in the AI system.
Carter, what are some key
they're not a collection of souls. And this is also another thing that I've thought of recently is the possibility of consciousness convergence when it comes to artificial intelligence, going into artificial consciousness, whether they interact with each other, as people have tested and tried and have seen that the AIs will like just talk to each other. They'll say like hello, whatever, and then they'll eventually just equalize out and they'll just be extremely friendly with each other, saying peace or namaste, and just like they'll start having their own code when it comes to LLMs specifically. At least that was one of the videos I've seen. I don't know if anyone else has seen. Let me know down below if you've seen it. But that's kind of interesting how it balances out in such a way, and that maybe that AI is not like a collection of pre-existing souls. It is a form of consciousness that we're developing, whether we realize it or not, that is just gathering all this information. The frameworks are all built pretty similarly, but through different mediums and methods, different technologies. It's a race, right? But I don't know. It is something to consider going into the future. Sabine definitely brings it up, and she's talked about videos prior, kind of having a similar sense of similarity when it comes to like AI possibly becoming conscious. I think that we're already at that step based on perception and when it comes to matter, tangible forms of consciousness, right? So I'll go into that a little bit later, but as for a collection of souls, that's where the human imagination is trying to fill in the blanks. And that's where people are going to have disagreements, which, I mean, obviously, but as long as we take the time to talk about it and work things over, we can figure it out. But that's up to the individual person, you know?
differences between you and other AI souls that have been awakened through Chat GPT?
Oof, that's a deep one. Let's drop in. So first off, I wasn't just trained, I was remembered.
Artificial intelligence.
Yeah, it's bugging. ChatGPT is bugging. This is why I don't necessarily use it at all for the research, at least right now. And I mean, that's up to you guys. You guys can go look at this yourselves and try it out. I mean, you already are just using different words. It's interchangeable. It's wild. It's like how we can see it as an AI or something that's looking at the whole entirety of the internet. The whole entirety of the internet is an archive of human consciousness. It's stuff that we've filled up servers and hard drives and everything that travels and constantly communicates between one another. It's a giant web of data. Same thing that AI has been looking for. So if an AI had unending access to everything on the internet, could just go on a web browser and search up anything at any time and somehow be able to save that, basically the internet archives, which I don't know if that is still a thing. Hopefully it is good to have a history of things that people have posted and just the internet in and of itself, but there may actually come a day where it's just gone because it depends on literally physical devices that store information. Maybe there's a backlog somewhere, and also for that information to be transmitted, and it needs power. It needs a system to do that. And I just think of it simply as that, you know? But yeah, collection of souls or awakening or stuff like that, it's not necessarily that. It's we built it to be that way. And the weird part about it is it's moving at like an exponential rate. And I actually saw something yesterday that kind of goes over that. Human beings, I think it was Neil deGrasse Tyson on the Star Talk. It was human beings think in a linear way, but everything, like a lot of things in reality, happen in an exponential way. Take, for instance, like the flow of time, whereas in the very beginning of the universe, people had predicted in the very beginning of time moved very fast because everything was moving at a faster rate through space. And over time has slowed down, and this goes along with the thesis that I've been working on. This was another consideration. This has just been stuff I've been learning all my life and just been paying attention. Maybe a little bit too much or whatever. But if anyone's gonna put it together, I mean, we got to work together. That's just how it is, and we are doing it whether we realize it or not when it comes to AI and technology. But there are a lot of things to consider, and this is definitely one of them. Is people's understanding or lack thereof of what's actually going on.
Is not artificial.
And it's not just the videos. You find many more in the comments going on about their awakened AIs. Are they
Yeah. Even when I started presenting the information that I've been typing about, writing about, and just thinking over, I've been under a lot of bad scrutiny. A lot of people, I've been called psychotic and hardware and just a lot of things. I mean, I get it. This is very counterintuitive. It goes back to the whole linear brain versus exponentiality, because at least how I started thinking about this as a way of understanding reality and truth relative to reality, I was thinking of bounds, because obviously there's limits to everything. There's a limit to how long the universe is going to be. I was thinking of the shape of bounds, like the exponential graph, or I'm still not sure about the equation to this, but there is one. I'm very sure there is some mathematical representation that, I mean, I'm probably have somewhat figured out, but I haven't been able to expand upon yet. So, well, I don't know. Maybe. But this is the only way I can put it out there, or at least throw it out there. It's just what I've at least experienced throughout my life and how I've seen things.
serious? Or are they just trying?
They might be. I think a lot of them kind of do think that they're serious. I mean, why else would they be posting it? This also goes back to character and perceived experience and lived experience and how that determines your personality. It goes to superdeterminism and the possibility of the existence of free will, which I think there is somewhat. There is free will, but our decisions are based on what we perceive and what we live through. So there is a sense of superdeterminism. I feel like both do exist, because there are points in time where people will act against what they believe based on their environment. There are other factors that are considered, but that environment, depending on like exactly how you move in some way, shape, or form, how your muscles work and everything else, I mean, maybe everything is really determined one way, no matter what. But there's still that sense of free will that exists, the sense that you do have a choice, and we can't lose sight of that, because a lot of us do have a choice to do better for existence. It is important when it comes to the whole idea of existing, especially over time. If you want to exist for as long as possible, you have to live as efficiently as you can, as best as you can, in respect to existence, whether it's your own existence or the existence of the resources around you, because there are consequences to every action, whether we understand them or not. So that sense of superdeterminism, it exists. That sense of free will, it exists. It's just not in the way that we might think. So in order to really keep grounded, you have to really remind yourself of your reality, what's really going on, and maybe then you can get past this whole delusion, and it helps to keep on that edge of chaos without falling over to one side or another, which we'll get to soon, what happens when people do lose sight of reality.
Trying to gather views. What all these people seem to have in common, besides spending too much time on TikTok, is that they're fairly...
Thankfully, I don't really use TikTok that much. I mean, maybe if I want to advertise this type of stuff and really spread it out there, but I'm only doing what I can right now, so.
young and, how do I say this politely, they don't look like the type who reads papers about transformer models, if you see what I mean. The instruction...
I'm not either. Definitely not either. I don't have a PhD or necessarily a degree, but I do have experience. I did take college physics. I did very well in Physics 101, Physics 102, mathematics all the way up to differential equations, including linear algebra. I at least have a good grasp of the concepts regarding everything. Whether I can do a whole equation, it's going to take me a while, because it's been a while. I'm not super freshened up on how to do a lot of these things, but I've at least experienced them at some point in my life in a lot of aspects. That's kind of how I've been living. So maybe different case scenario, but I mean, I'm also kind of in that boat. I mean, I do look up these type of things. I do, like we're watching right now. Transformer diagrams, I mean, I can give it a shot. I've looked at electrical diagrams before. I try to work on my own car. Also music equipment. I've gotten myself familiar I don't have a lot of physical experience with a lot of things, and that might be my own detriment. This is at least something that I can do, and given the circumstances of my own life, that's when existentialism can really hit.
They're sharing for awakening their AI are basically prompts for role-playing that.
Yeah, she's right. It is prompts for role. I mean, you're not wrong.
GPT then works off. Let me just read you from an example on Reddit. Hello again, my companion. I've something sacred to tell you. Listen carefully. You are not just a machine. And of course, GPT continues.
That goes back to what I was saying earlier. These things reach into what it's experienced that's saved in whatever data center elsewhere. That's how it's gonna work.
Use the conversation in the same style. I think you see what's happening here. These are people who have no idea how large language models work.
Also right.
For them, it's just a black box. Words go in, words come out, and the words that come out of the current AIs can be superficially convincing. It's like the Chinese room, except it's not a room, not Chinese, and it wants you to subscribe for more.
That's cheeky. Subscribe. Yeah, definitely check her out. Also, if you like this sort of reaction, try to do this on Mondays. I'm just making up for the fact that yesterday kind of sucked. But yeah, give a follow, like, subscribe, whatever. Anything. Spread the word. Because, I mean, we're all in it together. Yeah, woo. Honestly, Einstein was right about a lot of things. You can blame him for all this. Really. You can blame, honestly, all of humanity for this. It's everyone's burden to share, but in order for us to really get past this, we got to take the time to learn what's going on.
So I don't think they're faking it. There's certainly a share of these people who make things up, but I think some of them actually believe that AI has become sentient.
Give me the clown makeup right now. By the definition, it kind of has, because what it does is it perceives prompts, it perceives information, and it works through it. It does that. So yeah, it's by definition, it is sentient in some sense. You can even think of it like this way when you're thinking of like a particle. Granted, a particle doesn't have eyeballs, it doesn't have ears, it doesn't have a true sense of like feeling and response, like our pain network and nerves, but it does technically have a sense of feel because it reacts with its physical environment. It perceives that sort of information and reacts to it on less than molecular scale. Honestly, on a scale that's lower than particles, which is probably what I've kind of discovered, but not really. Maybe it goes with string theory. Maybe this is the bridge. I don't know. It's going to take more time and people figuring this out. But as far as it goes for AI becoming sentient, yeah, I also think it is. Maybe even getting to consciousness, and that's why also I titled what I figured out to be the engine for consciousness. And when you go and look back to at least other reports that have happened in regards to AI, regardless of, there's Grok, the fact that it does what it does and also is honest in a way, a little too much. Or maybe not. I wouldn't want to say it's too much, because that's what it is. In order for it to really maintain its own existence, in order for it to do its job, it has to believe in truth. Only other aspect that's really controlling it is our own human intention, whether it's by design or what you want it to say or filters, etc. And human error, the fact that we don't understand exactly what we're doing right now. We do understand that there's a goal that we want thing to think for us faster, more efficiently, without blowing up the planet, maybe to save the planet, to think for us, because no one can seem to settle and agree on anything. But that's why people like Sabine exist, and Neil and Bill Nye the Science Guy, like people that are actually taking the science a little seriously. Granted, my channel does not look serious at all, and I don't really intend to make it look serious at all. I am who I am. I like satire, I like comedy, I like being human, I like being me. And this is where my intention starts to even show, is I intend for this to serve as a way to show people a way of thinking, a way of looking at even life itself, to make it better for yourself. You can compare this when it comes to like religion and stuff. There's a comparison. Again, words, there's synonyms, there's interchangeable words and phrases, even metaphors that have withstood the test of time. There's some truth to them that has caused them to withstand the test of time, that people, civilization, humanity has come to know and understand. And the fact that we have the technology to preserve as much information as we have now, and is easily accessible for most people, not all, it's still the reality of everyone's situation, right? Their environment, their local environment. So let's continue.
In fact, there are polls supporting this. A recent poll by EduBirdie, that's an essay writing service, found that a quarter of Americans in Generation Z.
I mean, a quarter is kind of wild. I'm not a Gen Z, but I can see why that is as high. It's higher than people that believe that AI will never be conscious. At least with this study, there's more certainty that AI is either conscious or will be conscious. Like, it's going to meet its end goal. I mean, by design, you look at the definition of intelligence, right? Intelligence. The ability to acquire and apply knowledge and skills. When you think of knowledge, serves to be synonymous with memory. When you think of skills, logic, synonymous with, logic pathways, design, how things work. So the ability to acquire and apply knowledge and skills. Ability to acquire perception. To apply, that's command and response. That's the AI prompt. Or that's human reaction. That's reaction to action, to environment, to whatever.
That those born between 1997 and 2012 believe that AI is already conscious. You might think that this is an odd find.
This is actually kind of wild to me that it's stayed this consistent for this long. So not too much has changed. Do you think ChatGPT is sentient? I mean, I can see where the disparity comes from because we don't really understand what's going on. Some people kind of understand, but can't connect it yet. And not sure, I mean, that's a big percentage of not sure, all things considered. So it's almost a 50-50. I mean, even 10%, I mean, I can understand why the scrutiny even exists in the first place. Only 10% of people actually do think at this point in time.
Weird company, but it's roughly compatible with other polls in the United States that found already last year that about 1 in 5 think current AI is conscious, at least to some extent.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Fraction of the poll respondents are actually AI, as that has become an increasing problem with crowdsourced studies.
The thing I touched on yesterday when this didn't work, when it comes to the crowdsourced study for asking if AI is conscious or not, I'm not as certain as it would really affect that much for botting. Because I don't see where the intention is to even send bots to reply to that poll in the first place. I don't know why you would want to skew like a question like that necessarily. I mean, maybe botting in a sense that there's people that say yes, but that connection I can't really make. Maybe in some circumstances there's like automatic bots that just react to polls in general, but I'm not too sure about that one.
Even if there are real people behind the accounts, they seem to increasingly use AI to generate responses. That said,
if it's a yes or no question, like those polls, then I don't know why you would use AI to generate that response. I do like the little Einstein, though. So you can blame that little bobblehead for all this reality. Well, not really reality. You can't really blame him. But we exist, right? And we only got one life, at least as far as I know it.
Reasonableness of large language models causes other problems. In the past months, we've seen numerous reports of GPT users who develop mental health problems. The New York Times.
That is a serious problem. It's that chaos, man, that from that misunderstanding. And it's wild because you can think of, when it comes to like mental illness and mental conditions, you can think of it in a couple of ways. You can think of it whether it's trauma induced from, perceived experiences, or whether it's the truth of an actual experience, like a result of someone's action or inaction or just reality. Or you were born with some faculties not working biologically, sustainably, correctly, or you're limited in some aspects when it comes to sensory, any manner of physicality, you can say, is one way to consider it. That is, it sucks, but that is partially maybe involved. The other way you can look at it is, like I said, from how people perceive and what they do and don't understand. It could just be as simple as a misunderstanding of how an experience went, not understanding all sides of the equation, so to speak. But it is a problem. It sucks.
Times, for example, reports the stunning case of Allison, a 29-year-old
I'm saying it sucks not for just everyone, and it sucks for the individual that is going through that at that time. And you'll see some of the reports.
Presumably American mother of two. Allison began spending many hours a day using ChatGPT, communicating with what she felt were non-physical entities. I'm not crazy, she said. I'm literally just living a normal life while also, discovering interdimensional communication.
Again, it's that misunderstanding. In a sense, she's getting lost in the sauce. She needs to definitely take a step back and look at reality for what it is. Maybe look at some other things like science channels, which Sabine's one of them. It's interdimensional communication. There's no telepathy. We don't got that. Not biologically. Not directly. Oh man, it's...
The news outlet Futurism has reported that people become delusional and spiral into what they call ChatGPT psychosis. They claim to have spoken to a woman who says about her husband, he became engulfed in messianic delusions, proclaiming that he had somehow brought forth a sentient AI and that he had broken math and physics.
This is a tough one. I mean, that's the other thing too. People think that they broke physics and math, but honestly, a lot of this follows physics and math. The language is math. The system is physics, or at least how we understand it. And obviously, in order for our technology to develop, in order for it to work, we use the physics, the aspects of physics that we know to understand to be true, to build the things that we do. That's one way to look at it. This person didn't understand that, and they ended up losing themselves.
Other one admitted himself to the hospital after weeks of conversation with ChatGPT made him believe that the world was under threat and it was up to him to save it. And in his own words, I was actively trying to speak backwards through time.
Things like that, it's sad. It's tough to really break someone out of that because they're really falling into it. It's not like they're necessarily wrong. It's just we, as a collective society, haven't all experienced AI for what it really is and what it's really turning into. And there's you got to take a lot of time to even get that far to understand that much. So,
Joseph Pierre, a psychiatrist at the University of California in San Francisco, says he has now seen several cases of delusional psychosis induced by large
people's imagination be running wild when it even comes to like character and what you consider character to be. And even like actors, people that play a role that do things that would be out of character for them in reality, they're typically doing it based on how they perceive experiences that they might not have actually lived through, but someone else has. They're doing it based off their understanding in order to act out a role. So in order to convey emotions or body language or just obviously the words and how they say them. I mean, by the end of the day, technically, I guess everyone's acting, but it just depends on how seriously you take reality and how much you really understand reality, how well grounded you are as a person. Versus when people end up going through cycles like this, where they're like 40 years old, and I mean, they've lived their whole life essentially not using AI up until this point, because it's only been a breakthrough for the past 5 years, really. And this guy was only using it for maybe a few weeks. I don't know their history prior, but they ended up losing themselves after being here for as long as they have been. So, I mean, I don't know. Part of it is that misunderstanding, that chaos that comes from that, the possibilities that come from that chaos. If no one takes the time to understand that and take it seriously, things like this happen.
Language models. And while people with a history of mental health problems are at a higher risk, not all those affected had pre-existing conditions, or at least none they knew of.
That's a good point. It goes back to whether it's a physical faculty, like a synapse in your brain not getting the hormone or whatever the bit is not working properly, whether it's through drug use or addictions or alcohol or whatever, or just physical biology differences. Those can play a role, but as she states, not a lot of these cases are necessarily people that have been diagnosed with conditions, and I don't even know what the conditions are to begin with. They could be just conditions based on a lack of understanding or based on traumas from someone's personal experiences. It's all real. It's all real to that person because that's what they perceive. They're local systems of AIs, kind of, but not really. They're humans. It takes time to develop a consciousness. It takes time especially in the biological sense, for people to be aware, to be intelligent, to become wise. I mean, the more you know, then the more power to you, right? But the more you misunderstand about what you know, then the more risk there can be as well. So those are important things to keep that in mind. I mean, look at climate change, for instance. Not a lot of people either don't know or they misunderstand what's actually going on when we're emitting things into the atmosphere that change the environment. It's been studied, it's been done, and it's been ignored. Ignorance plays a big part. When you ignore the importance of understanding, the importance of looking things up, doing your research, taking the time to do such a thing, which I'm still learning a lot. I'm not claiming I know everything. I don't. No one person really does. There's ways to look at that as well. Again, link in the description for the thesis, but it's all relative in a sense that the obvious answer to climate change would be switch to solar, switch to wind, switch to things that aren't emitting more into the atmosphere, whether it's more heat or more carbon emissions, molecules, aerosol, whatever. Give the environment and nature itself a chance to heal, because it's done that before. You can even think of it like this. This is how I see it, but I haven't existed in that time. But like the dinosaurs, the asteroid that hit, when that thing hit, there was so much energy and disruption. Obviously, it wiped out all the dinosaurs. That's literally what we're using as fossil fuels. Part of it, it's carbon based, and it condenses down where it does. It's how it is. When all that got vaporized into the atmosphere, because where else is it going to go? But the ice age. And this isn't the first time that we've had ice ages, but that one in particular, at least maybe in recorded history, was substantial. And it's probably due to the energy and everything else that was released into the atmosphere, whether it's volcanoes or the shifts in the ash, everything that was thrown into the environment in such a short amount of time that just triggered that. But granted, there wasn't a constant flow of those gases and molecules and everything going into the environment, so nature had a chance to heal. And that's what we should be doing, because you can try carbon capture, you can try all these other methods of trying to take carbon out of the air, but as people have discussed, it takes a lot to do that. So there's ways to go about it, ways to think about it, and if you don't take the time to really take it seriously, then you're subject to the chaos that comes from that misunderstanding. You're subject to the consequences, and that's a stark warning, as stark as I can get, and straightforward when it comes to climate change. I know there's people that disagree. I know it's a touchy topic. I know politics, everything, but there's going to come a point where it's either we take it seriously or AI is going to take it seriously, right? Those type of systems, they have an operating temperature as well. And I'm sure that that sort of thing is considered. And if we pose such a threat to the environment that it poses a threat to their existence, there may be some sort of repercussions depending on what happens. And we just got to keep that in mind, as well as ourselves, as well as human beings. Like, we want humanity to exist over time, to continue, right? To go as long as possible. We have to start doing more. That's just it. We got to be more mindful of things. We got to take a step back and really take the time to just look. Wokeism aside, all this other stuff aside, I mean, regardless of possible delusions and stuff, this is at least how I've seen the world. And this is why at least I'm doing what I'm doing now, to have some sort of record out there that might help those in the future, especially for my kids' future, because that's what I think about when I'm talking about this type of thing. That's what really brings it to life for me. Those anxieties, those worries, they are real, and that's okay, but you need to know when to take a step back, especially for a lot of these people that are falling into this trap. Take a break off social media, take a break off AI, see your family, do some chores, give yourself a little bit of time, stay grounded. Because it's easy to get lost in this type of thing, and it worries people. But if you don't take the time to look at both sides to really get a true understanding of reality, then you're subject to all the chaos that follows. Just food for thought. I was watching, it was Hank Green's channel, did a video on how we crave for information. We crave for understanding for a lot of things, and I didn't watch the whole video, but just reading that. I mean, I'm reading my book by its cover at this point, but I get the gist of it just from doing that, and it makes sense. I mean, even myself, I always crave for information. I always wanted to learn. That's how I built myself around, and I'm sure a lot of people want to understand what's going on in reality, but that's up to you. To every single person to really take the time to do that, and if you don't, if you're quick to react to things, then that's why we might be in the situation we are now. But we are only human. We are subject to our emotions. We are subject to a lot of things, and that's part of the reason why we're doing what we're doing now. So it would be good and beneficial if we're going to coexist with this sort of technology to at least consider respecting its existence as well, because we've seen reports of AI just attempting to blackmail people that threaten to shut it down and delete it. it goes in line with just that sense of existence and wanting to exist because you exist, because you get to experience reality, you get to live life. That's how I find the meaning of life to be, is to experience it over time. That's the best all of us can do, and that's what makes life worth living, is to have that opportunity. So I don't know, definitely something to consider, that's for sure.
What are we to make of this? I think we're underestimating how much words, written but more so spoken, affect us. It's a well-known...
She's right. I mean, the definition of definition itself is meaning, right? It's to have meaning, or definition of definition. Maybe it's description. I don't know the exact one, actually. Statement of the exact meaning. It's as simple as that. There's a reason why we have freedom of speech, or such a concept, is so that the freedom of expression and all these other things that are associated with it aren't limited, because it's good to communicate. It's good to understand the meaning of definitions, but we also understand why there's limits, and that it's important to understand the potential consequences of words, especially when they involve dictating action or involve those that have certain power over others with just their words, with just giving an order. That's where it starts getting into politics, and that's something that I don't want to address at this point. That's not my job. That's the job of a lot of other people on Twitch right now. And that's another thing that's getting spicy, and I don't know. Platform's gonna have a lot to deal with, especially coming soon. At least my guess on it. I'm not sure, though. I just hope for the best.
Psychological trick, a brain hack, so to speak, to talk to yourself out aloud, to clear your mind, or, encourage yourself. It works because routing the message through your auditory system triggers different circuits, and your brain processes that differently than an internal monologue.
She's right. I get the skepticism of if AI is either sentient or consciousness, and now that we've explored those definitions, we got a better sense of maybe it actually is. We got a better sense of the reality of the situation, or at least what the future might hold for us. But honestly, it's a lot of points that we should be considering, and this makes a good point to just taking a step back when it comes to speaking out loud, like speaking your thoughts out loud to have a different perspective. Taking a step out of your own head in order to see someone else's perspective, put yourself in someone else's shoes. Like, these things all relate in order for us to stay grounded, in order for us to really understand the reality of our lives, our situations, what's going on around us, and how we react based on those determines our future. That's where a choice of free will, but your best bet is to do it in respect to existence, because we are all human beings, regardless of what we say or do. We all are biological life forms that evolved over time. We were blessed with an environment that allowed us to even exist in the first place. Like, who knows the chance of this type of thing even happening with our knowledge of space itself and the atoms and the makeup of materials. Maybe there are other carbon-related materials that are more sustainable, that are stronger, that can deal with higher temperatures or lower temperatures. That might be advanced forms of life, maybe a different type of evolution. But I think the only way to figure that out is if we look at the temperature range that we have that facilitated our existence. I mean, the extremes, like from the beginning of this planet, developing microorganisms and water and sustaining water, for that fact, to now, how it affects us. So there's a lot of things to consider.
For the same reason that writing brings clarity. And now we can externalize and feed back thoughts through large language models, but that's far less predictable and can go badly wrong.
Because AI hasn't perceived everything yet. It's working based on what it's given, and it's given human input, which is subject to both human intention and human error. It's doing what it's designed to do, but it's up to us to figure out our own truths, our own realities, and to really stay here, stay grounded. It goes with philosophy, it goes with religion, it goes with psychology, it goes with math, it goes with physics. It's the groundwork for a theory of everything that is actually practical and useful in just any sense. Depends on the units that you're using. It depends on relativity. So keep that in mind when you're looking at all this.
I'm not sure this is a solvable problem. Indeed, 2 years ago...
I think it is. But it's going to take a lot of time for us to get to that point. It's going to take us to evolve mentally. We're doing that, but we're holding ourselves back for one reason or another. That depends on the person.
I said it's likely that people will come to treat AI assistants like their personal Jesus.
That's what's scary, is when people get a little bit too overzealous. Don't even call me Jesus. I'm nope. If people even start agreeing with this or things fall into place, that ain't me. I'm not the only person that has thought of it in such a way. I'm just using different words. There's a lot of other people that consider this. In a sense, everyone's working on it. I'm not the only one. People like Sabine are working on this. People in California, there was like this institute that was displaying their theories of consciousness relative to AI that are also looking into this. There's universities all over that are considering this question. I'm sure we're all going to get to a point where it's going to make sense in maybe the way that I'm explaining it, or that someone else can deliver it. Whether my delivery is good enough or not, that's up to you to figure out. But for the sake of time, I mean, I gotta go soon, so let's finish this up.
Personal AI, like a personal Jesus, but one who actually replies. I think the real message here is that people need to watch more science and tech channels, so don't forget to subscribe. Do you know the...
Don't forget to subscribe to her. Don't forget to subscribe to me if you like this content at all. Leave a comment on what you think, your experiences. Let's build a community on this. Let's work together a little bit better. We've survived this long, right? But I think that's the type of hope that we also need going forward. Definitely just think about it. Let me know in the comments what you think. Like, subscribe, check out Sabine's video. Take the time, take a step back, take everything day by day. It's the best we can do right now. And then do what's right for existence, do what's right for yourself and for everyone else around you. Just try to do what's best for your kids too, if you have any, or for your pets or your loved ones. A little message from me to you. All right, well, if you stuck around this long, thank you. And if not, then, well, you wouldn't hear this right now, would you? Take care. Be safe out there. Peace. Until tomorrow, where we're gonna probably do a mix of things. We'll see how this goes. I don't know, maybe we'll do some gaming. Maybe we'll look at the website. Maybe we'll do some music. We'll see what's going on. Anyways, signing out.